Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show Weekend Edition. It's December the 7th, 2025 at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I've got my weekend show all ready to roll here. I'm going to start out, it's going to be about charts today. Starting out with the metals, such as gold and silver and copper. Then I'll get into some updates on my unicorn picks, my top of mind picks, my special situation pick. Last weekend, I did the charts for my major precious metal miners, my junior gold miners, my developers, and my gold and silver explorers with important high grade discoveries. But I didn't get to my list of explorers. So that's what this show's going to be about when I get into the charts after my unicorn picks, top picks, and special situation pick. And then I've got a few news releases to talk about. So let's get on with it. We'll start with gold. One of the things I really look for when I look at charts after a big run like we had from August to October, we had a big run in gold, and then what I found very bullish, or what I look for, is I like to see that they don't give back a large portion of the gain. And as you can see here, it maintained a good amount of that gain, which went from about 3,400 to 4,400 and only gave back about 10%. And then it started to base here and then had another rally, gave back some of that gain, but now we've got a higher low. Always love to see those higher lows. Now, this was in an even tighter range than this one. So we had a base in a very tight range, another rally, and this time we got above the last rally. So we've had a lower low and a lower high or a high. And now we've got another super tight basing here. And I think we're gonna this next run, I think we could get over 4,400 and likely before the end of the year. So everything is looking really good for gold. I talk about the fundamental reasons why I'm so bullish on gold, monetary metal, the fiat currency and debt system is broken. There's a death spiral of debt. Countries outside of the United States are starting to load up on gold to the tune of now having more gold than they do US debt. I think that's all very bullish. We've got stagflation, we've got the cost of servicing the debt. All of these things are pointing towards a, what do you want to call it, a modern gold standard. Maybe they're not going to officially announce it, but it's happening. The central bankers of the world are starting to prefer gold over US dollars, US debt. And I think that's going to continue because ultimately, I think we're heading back to a gold standard where not only is it an important um, reserve asset, it will back up the debt in a more significant way and also um, um, be used in a more substantial way for in the global trade that happens internationally. So everything is good with gold. Really happy with what I'm seeing. I think we're on for another rally here. Could be as early as Monday. All right, silver. So silver, I had talked about this U-shaped action here. Okay, so that's kind of like a tall glass, if you will, and instead of a cup and handle, a tall glass of water. It gave back some of those gains, but then it had blasted off. So it's acting very much like a cup and handle. And when you get that kind of a blast off, it really looks to me like $60 is a magnet that it's just being sucked towards. And I don't think it'll be long after that that we move over $60. My main arguments on silver are that it's a monetary metal with the added advantage of being a industrial metal as well. And the driver of that industrial use is solar panels. And the for the last 4 or 5 years, we've had a around a 200 million ounce shortfall compared to the demand. And that's been uh, covered by above ground sources. But now I think that with this breakout, we're starting to see signs that those above ground sources are, not able to handle the deficit between supply and demand. And I think the demand is going to keep on going because, take, for example, artificial intelligence. One of the things that it really needs badly is energy. And, if you're looking at the various different energy sources out there that can be brought online really rapidly, solar is at the top of that list. And so, as these data centers are being built out for AI and to such a position that now it's starting to rise to, I think, will overthrow or overpower the demand from cryptocurrencies that are using data centers. So that could have some ramifications that are very negative for Bitcoin and others. But getting back to the energy, those data centers for AI, they need energy. And there are plenty of places where solar is a very real option. And so, uh, plus it has the monetary benefit. And so these things are really a perfect storm for silver. As you know, I've been bullish and talking about the trends and why I thought they would go up. But the ultimate trend that I'm looking for now is that silver starts to make a series of record highs, much like gold did since it broke above 2100 in the first quarter of 2024. And then ever since then and until now has been making a series of record highs. And I think that's what we are facing now that gold broke or silver broke over $50 a pound, or sorry, an ounce. And so I think we're in for a very good market price for silver. And I also want to talk about copper because copper, as you can see, has also made a pretty important breakout since it bought or was basing over here in late uh, mid to latter part of November and has since broken out quite substantially from around the $5 level to Friday. This is, by the way, on the futures price. So that's $5.44. And so the big argument for me on copper is that estimates are that next year there will be about a 500,000 ton deficit in copper that will continue for many years. Some are as high as over 1 million tons. And again, artificial intelligence, data centers for cloud computing and cryptocurrencies and just regular tech internet is under a lot of they're needing a lot of copper to pull that off. And so, and then you look at electric vehicles and You look at aging power grids that need to be updated in developed countries and new ones being made in developing countries, and the demand is very, very powerful. Then you look at the supply side, and on the supply side, discoveries of major copper mines has dropped precipitously over the last 2 to 2.5 decades. So what happens then is that means there won't be enough projects in the development pipeline to help replace the old mines and to build new production. And the current production is coming from a lot of very old mines. And so you have a weakened, very weakened supply chain, and you've got all this demand coming. So, I mean, we're going to need a lot higher price of copper to incentivize and finance those projects that are in development, plus get a whole lot more exploration going to find the new deposits that can then become development projects and then become mines. So the chances are that broken supply chain is going to stay broken for a very long time. And we're seeing all these demands for copper. So really perfect storm for copper. And, this action here, I kind of exit out because, it was rumored that Trump was going to put tariffs on copper. And then he said, no, we're not going to put tariffs on copper. So it made some noise in the middle of or in this chart, in this part of the chart here. But I think if we go to the monthly chart, you can start to see all-time high closing monthly here, and a really bullish trend since basically 2022, with a series of higher lows, a series of higher highs on the monthly, and important breakout above $5 per pound. So not only do I see the technicals and the supply and demand equation very bullish for copper, but ultimately, I think that in order to see more copper mines being developed faster, you need a higher price of copper. And to replace those developers, you need more exploration. And, so ultimately, my argument is that we need somewhere between, $7 to $10 per pound, and for it to stay above that in order to incentivize down the food chain of the supply side of the equation. And so this will be very bullish for especially the group of copper that I follow, which is the explorers and developers. And so, yeah, very bullish scenario for the price of gold, silver, and copper. So yeah, that's the metals. Now I'm going to get onto charts for my what I call my unicorn picks. One of my unicorn picks, this is my silver unicorn pick, is Vizsla Silver. They are a sponsor of my report, so I'm thankful. They help me to be able to do my reporting and present it to my audience at no charge. So I'm always very thankful of that. And to have a unicorn pick as a sponsor makes me really excited. And why it falls into that category for me is that if you look at the economics of their Panuco project in Mexico, it's really almost unheard of what you're seeing in that project. It's the capex to build the mine is about 225 million. The company currently has about double that in the treasury. They also have a if you use current silver and gold prices, They have a internal rate of return of over 100%, which is, you just don't hear of that anymore. And based on the amount of silver and gold that they will produce, and the high internal rate of return, the payback of their capex is down to only a few short months. So just think about that, folks. You pay off the capex of about 225 million, and that's a quarterly thing. So that equates to about $1 billion in free cash flow the first year it's in full commercial production, which is, I think they're pointing out towards 26, 27 to bring it into production. They're waiting on their permits for the mine. They have some of their permits. They already have a permit to be able to go underground with the production ramp that they'll then be able to take a bulk sample from. They'll stockpile that bulk sample so that when they do get it into production, they've got a stockpile of material to then pump into the mine. And that's very exciting because the ramp gives them access to where the production will first start, and the bulk sample gives them material to pump into the mill once it's built. And that is a bottleneck, if you will, or a potential place where there could be hiccups during a new mine. And so they're already getting ahead of that curve. And so that's great. And another piece of news that just came out on Friday after the close was that they have been accepted into the S&P TSX Composite Index, that they will be in as of December the 22nd, 2025. So now you've got index buying for Vizsla Silver as well. So all things combined, that's why I think you should have a look at Vizsla Silver. Okay, another of my McEwen Mining here. Another of my unicorn picks is McEwen Inc. And they are my unicorn pick for copper. They have the Los Azules project in Argentina. I'm going to tighten this up here a little bit better. Let's see here. Let's do this. Okay. So Los Azules, top 10 undeveloped copper projects in the world. I was just talking about my bullish arguments for copper. One of them is there's not enough uh, high quality copper development projects. This Los Azules is there, which is owned by McEwen Copper, which McEwen Inc. own. It's a private company. 46% is owned by McEwen Inc., and they also have a royalty on it. What makes it special is that it's in the top 10 of undeveloped copper mines in the world. It also is in the lowest cost quartile. So if you're asking for development projects that need to be developed quickly, Los Azules falls into that category. Now, what also makes it special is they recently did their feasibility study. And in that feasibility study, which has all the up-to-date numbers in it on your costs and stuff like that, the all-in sustaining cost for it is $2.11 per pound. So we've got copper trading at over around 540 per pound. So run the numbers, you're looking at over around $3 of free cash flow. The production will be about 400,000 pounds per ton or per year. So you're looking at about 1.2 billion in free cash flow when they get that into production, and about half of that goes to McEwen Inc. So very attractive project, and it's what the copper world needs. Now, later I'm going to talk about news on this company because they've also got their gold division, and they had some news out related to the gold side, their gold mining business. So I'll talk about that later. Just wanted to go over the charts. Uh, golden Golden Cross here trading well above the 50-day moving average. When gold and other metals came off, they came off as well, got down, and they're trading very tightly against that 50-day moving average. And the 50-day moving average is on a very bullish trend. Back here, I talked about that I thought that this was ready for a breakout. It's broken out by about 10% of late, and I think it could start to trade well above that 50-day moving average. And so that's the chart action on McEwen Inc. All right, next up is Goliath. Now, Goliath had some news out earlier this week. I'm a shareholder of the company, and I did a talk about that. I think it was on Wednesday. So just go to my YouTube channel and you'll hear what I had to say about Goliath's news. I mean, the basics are every time they put out news, every time they drill a new hole, the sure bet discovery just gets better and better. And it is already what I would consider the one of the most important high-grade gold discoveries in the Golden Triangle, the prolific Golden Triangle of British Columbia, in many, many years. The last one I saw that was of this quality was the Bruce Jack mine that Pretium built. I started covering it before they brought it into production. Ultimately, it was bought out. I think I started covering it at about $3 a share. It was ultimately bought out for over $19 a share in Canadian. I think that SureBet could be better than that. The next great one, you got to go back into the 1980s, the Eskay Creek discovery, which really put the Golden Triangle on the map. Um, it, I think SureBet could rival that actually. Part of the reason is that I believe that although they have this mountain, and you look at how the gold, visible gold, is distributed inside the mountain, you've got about a 1.2 kilometer distribution in one direction, about 1.2 in another, and about 800 meters of relief. And inside that is widespread visible gold with high grades throughout it. Now, if you run the numbers on that, that let's, I think I'm being fairly conservative if I give it an average grade of 6 grams. But at 6 grams, that's like $900 a ton rock these days. You know, gold is trading at about $150 per gram. So, that's like $900 a ton rock. And with that grade, you've got, let's say, an average thickness of the veins of about 5 to 6 meters. You can mine down to a meter and a half. So 5 meters gives you a nice big chunk of rock at $900 per ton to produce. So it doesn't take a lot of volume to get you up into the multi-millions of ounces. And even more interesting is that I still believe that they might be only 25% into what I think is like an iceberg of a project. And why I say that is they still haven't really found the limits of a series of stacked veins that go in one direction called Bonanza, and then there's another series called of stacked veins called the Sherbet, and they dip in opposite directions. And if you sort of uh, extrapolated out how far that could be, you could be looking at 4 or 5 kilometers between the potential sources. And then underlying that, you've got these vertical um, reduced intrusion related gold dikes coming up through those gently dipping vein sets. Um, and they still haven't uh, found the edges of the down dip extensions of each vein or the depth of the reduced intrusion related gold. And what's interesting about all of those zones is that they've done age dating on them and they're very close in age date. So there is a chance that the entire thing could be have under it a big magma chamber that is the source of where all this gold came from, visible gold. I mean, it's amazing how much visible gold is in this system. So, yeah, that's the Goliath story. It had a good run since early 2025. It started at about a buck, currently trading at $2.50. I think that this is not well understood still. And the biggest thing, I don't think people have run the numbers and clearly and seen, well, you start looking at $900 a ton rock and you've got, many, many, many tons of that. You've got a world-class mine in the making. And I think that's exactly what this is. And looking at their current value, I don't think that they are being priced like that. So I think it's a heck of a bargain and what I consider one of those tremendous value propositions. All right. So that's the Goliath story. Another of my unicorn picks is Amex Exploration. Amex is been on quite a run since about April of this year. And after putting out a resource estimate on their various different zones at their Perron project in Quebec, they started talking about how they're going to bring it into production in a staged way. One of those stages is to do a 20 to 40,000 ton bulk sample on their Champagne zone. A lot of times when a bulk sample is done, you're basically spending more than a dollar to get less than a dollar's worth of gold out of the bulk sample, but you're doing it for geotechnical and statistical reasons. All right. When you're looking at an average grade of about 16.2 grams, you can even make money, significant money, off of a bulk sample. And so, bulk sample, then they're doing a preliminary economic assessment on a toll milling concept. The toll milling would be where you have truck the material to a nearby mill and there's a bunch of them around the Perron project in Quebec. And then you use the profit from that to build a mill on your own property. So they're sussing out all of that information. And as they've been talking about that, it had a golden cross in early June, good trajectory on the 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average. I'm really happy to have them as a sponsor and also that they're starting to really get the recognition for how good the Perron project is and how good the Champagne zone is. It's got around 850,000 ounces in the measured and indicated category with an average grade of 16.2 grams per ton of gold. You don't hear about those kind of deposits very much anymore. And it's still open. And even open to the point that there's an inferred 120,000 ounces that is has a grade of about 10 grams per ton. So it's quite a special zone called the Champagne zone. And well, I'll leave you to conclude what that all means. What it means to me is that it's the kind of project people should be doing their investors that like high grade should be doing their homework on. And that's the story on Amex. Okay. So now another chart, and this company also has news out, and they're a brand new name to the company. but they're not a brand new company. They're called Pirate Gold Corp now, and they changed their name. They were formerly Sokoman Minerals. So the big thing for Sokoman, I'm a shareholder of this company. The big thing for Sokoman is that Denny Laviolette became the CEO. Denny Laviolette is a very talented geologist, has been instrumental in the success at Newfound Gold. He was also early into the artificial intelligence and was able to sell his artificial intelligence company to ALS, one of the largest worldwide assaying labs and geoscientific labs. And I'm going to talk about what they did with that. But Denny is the kind of guy that's so talented that he basically could have went to work for numerous companies. He chose a tiny little company called Sokoman. I'm really glad he chose Sokoman because I've recognized that it is a very high quality project. Moosehead has a lot of high grade gold in it. I've always said that I think that Moosehead, what would make a big difference there was when they figured it, figured out the entire system. And Denny Laviolette and his pal Greg Matheson, I think that they know how to find a lot of high grade gold and understand these orogenic gold systems. And they had news out. So I'll talk about the news later. From the chart, as you can see, a golden cross here. This was when they announced that Denny Laviolette was taken over as the CEO. Then it had some sideways action here as they were raising about $25 million. And now they kind of softened up to the 50-day moving average and have now broken off of that again. And love the trajectory on the 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average. And now that they got the news I'll talk about later, I think they'll have plenty of catalysts to see it go significantly higher. Okay, another of these are what I call my top of mind picks. Pirate Gold is one, and Sterling Metals is another. Sterling Metals have in the last few months has really broken out quite substantially. The reason for that is they've made a very high grade discovery on a large land package in Ontario near the Batchewana Bay, and it's very high grade. And when I see high grade over thick intersections, I know that those are not small systems. And I think they've got a tiger by the tail on this project. And what they've been doing of late is that, well, they have a bunch of pending assay results, but they had to put a halt on receiving those assay results because they were doing a financing of over $10 million. Now that's all been done. And I would note this very tight trading range here. And I love seeing these tight trading ranges. Oftentimes, what happens after that is a significant breakout, and they have the catalyst to do that. So that is the Sterling metal story, and I'm looking forward to those pending assay results. And it's a good time for you to do your homework on Sterling. Kirkland Lake Discoveries Corp is another company that is on my top of mind picks. They had a golden cross here. I'm also a shareholder of this one. They had a golden cross here, broke out quite significantly because they've also made an important discovery of high grade copper at their project in near Kirkland Lake, Ontario. It's a really big project, and it has Originally, this project was kind of left alone for a long time because it was considered a VMS system. And in Kirkland Lake, intrusion related gold and base metal systems are what you're looking for. And so Kirkland Lake Discoveries started drilling and having some very good looking drill core, and that made their stock go up here. And then they went through a sideways action while they'd been raised about $14 million. Recently, they announced that they're doing about a 25,000 ounce or 25,000 meter drill program that's underway now. So they're going to have a lot of catalysts to move forward. And that's, I think, what you're going to notice about these companies that I call top of mind picks. It's because they have a lot going on, and that could generate a lot of important news, the kind of news that could result in significant breakouts. And they have really high quality projects, so that's why they're top of mind picks. All right. So that's the Kirkland Lake Discoveries story. Another company that's on my mind a lot is Borealis Mining. By the way, they're a sponsor of my reports, and I'm also a shareholder of the company. And what is caused this cup handle breakout is that, and a golden cross here with a very high trajectory of the 50-day moving average, is that they're in the steps of becoming a junior gold miner. What they in Nevada, by the way, don't hear that very often. And what the steps are is they started out by residual leaching gold from the leach pad that is already existed. This was in production when gold was a lot lower price than it is now. So they were able to extract some more gold from the leach pad. And then few months ago, they started taking they had a stockpile of material there. So they brought in a toll, what do you call it? I don't even know how to toll production that came in, and they crushed that material and put that on the leach pad. And so that stockpile and that material being leached for the very first time will lead towards gold production over the next, let's say, 6 months. And then in January, they're anticipating going back to the permitted mill or permitted pits that they have and start pulling more material from those permitted pits. And so that will get them into the steps to become a junior gold miner in Nevada. And then they've got other assets that they're planning on bringing into production as well. And the ultimate goal is to turn into a mid-tier Nevada gold focused gold company. And so the natural question is, well, do they have the team to do that? Well, their chairman is Bob Buchan, who was the founder of Kinross, which is one of the world's major gold mining companies. So this isn't his first rodeo. The CEO of the company, Kelly Malcolm, he cut his teeth at the Detour Lake mine, one of Canada's top two largest gold mines. And then he was the VP exploration for Amex, which is one of my unicorn picks. He found a lot of gold there. Then about a year and a half ago, he wanted to start his own company, so where he would be the CEO, and that's the genesis of Borealis Mining. Along the way, he also brought another important person, Andreas Steckenborn, who also cut his teeth at Detour as a mine builder, and then was also involved in the Cote Lake mine, which is IAMGOLD's big high quality new mine. So Andreas Kelly's really great at exploration and is entrepreneurial. Andreas is really good at running the mine. So on the project also, it's got all the infrastructure, including an ADR plant, which enables them to extract gold and create doré bars. And so they got all the pieces of the puzzle, if you will, and just sort of starting out as a junior gold miner with a bright future. So take a look at Borealis Mining. All righty. Now we've got Foran Mining. Now, this one's been on my mind a lot lately because I always have a few picks that are late in the development, the development stages of the Lassonde curve. So one of the exciting times for the Lassonde curve is when you make a big discovery. The next is when you bring it into production. In between there is a valley where you're going through your economic evaluations, your permitting, your environmental studies, getting the funding to build a mine, and then start construction. They're at that sweet spot before you go into production and up the right side of the Lassonde curve. They're about 70% as of their last update of building their McEwen mine. It's a very exciting copper mine. It's a VMS. It also has gold, silver, lead, zinc as well. And what I think the ultimate with for you, I always talk about doing your homework, and what I did my homework and picked them down when they got beaten down here to under $3 per share, and they closed Friday at $4.20. Now, what gave me confidence was that although they were having some growing pains with the construction of the mine, they still had the support of Pierre Lassonde himself. So I'm talking about the Lassonde curve, and Pierre Lassonde himself is a big shareholder. He's known for doing his homework. And they also have Agnico Eagle as a important shareholder as well. Now that's a double whammy for me when it comes to Agnico Eagle because Agnico Eagle is my favorite major gold mining pick and has been since early 2024, and they've gone up from $60 a share to over $240 a share while I've had them as a pick. And why they've done that is because they are such an exceptionally good operator of gold mines. But one of their key assets, or almost company making assets, has a lot of the geological characteristics of the McEwen mine that Foran is building. And so that having Agnico Eagle, I think, is a good endorsement for the quality of their project. I'll leave it at that. And they've gone through their golden cross here. Since then have been trading quite aggressively above their 50-day moving average. The 50-day moving average is on a very bullish trajectory. And next, I think you'll see the 200-day is flattened out, and I think it will start to trend upwards as well. The catalysts for this company are that they should start pouring copper in February, and then moving it towards full commercial production after February. So a lot of great things happening for Foran. They're also doing an exploration and getting very good results as well. So they're not sitting on their laurels. They're not sitting waiting to have this mine in production. They're already looking for new production on their project down the road. So this is a developer that's hitting on all cylinders. and is about to go into that, or is in that uh, that period just before they go into production. So picked a lot of companies like that over the years. A lot of them done very well. Pretium, Mag Silver, Silvercrest, Osisko Mining. I always have love having these kind of companies in my picks. I even have more, I think, somewhere. Um, and so yeah, that's why I have Foran on the top of my mind a lot lately. All right, another company that I'm just today adding to my top of mind picks is Newfound Gold. So they've kind of graduated for me from a developer into a top of mind pick. I'll note that they've had a very good cup handle and onwards and upwards from their kind of action. I think I picked them back here, either here or here. I can't remember. Sorry, but it was before they went through this Golden Cross, and they bought out another junior that just started production on their property in Newfoundland that has two mills on it, and they present it as sort of a de-risking of their Queensway mine that they're bringing into production now or developing it. And that's a super high grade. They recently had great results out that saw them blast off here from about, let's say, 340-ish to 430 on Friday. That was because they had some really fantastic drill results out right, almost right at surface, like 10, 15 meters below surface, super high grade. That's some of the material that they're going to mine in the early stages of mining at Queensway. And so, yeah, a lot of great things happening for this company. Yeah, that's why I'm happy to add them to my top of mind picks. All right, they've graduated for me. All right, 9 Mile Metals has recently gone through a golden cross. I started covering them about 6 cents or 5.5 cents a share. And why I start, actually, it was, I think, this day here. So yeah, I closed that day at about five-ish. The next day, that day, I did a show on them because they had renounced a 22.4 meter intersection of massive sulfides on their project in New Brunswick in the Bathurst mining camp. Now, the Bathurst mining camp is one of the great VMS camps in the world. And what made it that was the Brunswick 12 mine, which was one of the great VMS mines anywhere in the world. It produced 125 million tons. It was just a monster. And um, those don't, those kind of areas, what's exciting is VMS deposits tend to be found in clusters. I think in the total is about 40 that have been found in this area, and I think 20 of them were mined. Now, what makes this really interesting about what 9 Mile Metals is doing is one of those old mines was called the Wedge Mine. Now, they ran some geophysics on that and they found some new targets. They drilled those targets and they started by announcing on their first hole into these new geophysical anomalies a 22.4 meter intersection of massive sulfides. Then this week, they announced that they hit a 20-meter intersection of massive sulfides loaded up throughout the core on both of those holes. And that's the true width, or close to the true width of those hits. And um, that's exciting on its own. You start hitting thick intersections of massive sulfides where the core is full of from top to bottom of massive sulfides. And then in those ones they announced this week, they also talked about bornite and colite in the core. And these are your highest grade minerals, copper sulfide minerals that carry the highest grade of copper in them. And they also have a lot of chalcopyrite. And so these are all what suggests that those are going to come back with high grades of copper in them and probably other metals as well. And yet the company has like an $8 or $9 million valuation. I bought a bunch of stock when I first saw that first hole with 22.4 meters of massive sulfides in it. I was super happy to see their second hole, which is about a 30-meter step out, 30, 40 meter step out from the first hole. And it had two intersections of massive sulfides in it. So they're actually shooting after two geophysical anomalies and they're catching them with both holes. Now, not very far, they got another geophysical anomaly that they want to poke a hole into as well. So, really tiny little company, but they're in elephant country and they're finding massive sulfides over thick intersections and they're getting the kind of massive sulfides that suggests they should also have high grade. So when you take all these things into consideration, this is why it's on the top of my mind and why right out of the box I didn't just pick them, I put them right into my top of mind picks upon picking them. So do your homework. I love seeing these golden crosses when the trajectory of the 50-day moving average is, like going vertical. And the 200-day is starting to do the same thing. So stay tuned, do your homework. I think it's warranted. While this company still has a sub $20 million valuation, really, for what I see, it I think the valuation should be even before those assay results come out on a comparable basis, somewhere between 20 and 50 million dollar Canadian valuation, which would make it a pretty substantial gain even before they get the assays out. And if those assays are what I think they will be, I think you could be quickly looking at $100 million plus valuation. How much plus? I don't know until I see those assay results and more drilling, but I really love what I see for 9 Mile Metals. Okay, so I talked about my unicorn picks and my top of mind picks. Now I've got a special situation pick. I only have one of those, and that is Earthlabs. And Earthlabs has a dual combination, one a kind of a business plan. One side of the business is their digital marketing platforms, CEO.ca, the Northern Miner, the Bible of mining for the last over 100 years. The company owns that. They also own mining.com and one other site that always I forget the name of, Canadian Mining Journal, sorry. And so that's sort of the meat and potatoes of the business. That looks after your staffing, your operations, your rent, your cost of running the business can all be looked after the digital marketing side. But the real value driver of the company is their fund. So this company invests in other companies. Okay. Now, just to give you an idea of how impressed I am with the quality of their picks and some of the key stocks that they hold, one of them is Amex Exploration, which is one of my unicorn picks. Another is on my top of mind picks, they're big shareholders in Pirate Gold, Sterling Metals, Kirkland Lake Discoveries, Borealis Mining, and Newfound Gold. Where Newfound Gold, they also own a royalty on the Queensway project. And so that just gives you a flavor for some of the assets that they own. Now, what has made this recent substantial breakout is they announced their quarterly report. And in their quarterly report, they reported that their profits on their portfolio in the same quarter last year was about $1 million. This year it was $23 million, and currently they have a valuation that is substantially lower than the net asset value of the great companies that they own. Now, part of what is very exciting for me on the fun side of this business is it took them a couple years since they sold their artificial intelligence asset to ALS to sort of build up their portfolio. And they are mainly in the juniors and the developer side of the food chain in mining. They have gold, they have silver, they have copper. Um, But now it really wasn't until about the summertime that those kind of companies started to enter into the gold and silver bull market and copper bull market. And so a couple years of building, really that group of companies that the kind of companies they invest in are just starting to come to life. And when that happened, they saw a 2,300% improvement quarter over quarter. Now they're loaded up with a lot of great assets, and people are starting to pay attention to those kind of companies. And so that's why I'm so bullish on Earthlabs with the stock symbol SPOT or SPOT. And I'd advise you to take a look at them. All right. So, as I said at the opening of this show, um, last weekend, I did the charts for my major precious metal miners, mid-tier gold miners, junior gold miners, developers, and my gold, silver explorers with important high-grade discoveries. But unfortunately, the show was getting a little long in the tooth, and I couldn't go over my explorer charts. So I want to do that before I have a few companies that had some important news out that I want to talk about. So let me have a sip of my coffee and let's start looking at the explorers. So before I do that, don't worry about, I've started a practice about a month and a half ago or so where I include all of my current picks and the categories that they're in the description of my videos. I also do that on when for those that are subscribers to my Substack at rocksandstocks.substack.com. So whether you go through it, get that YouTube video, just look in the description over and you'll find all of my picks. And again, last Saturday or last Sunday, I did my those categories that I talked about, but I didn't get to the explorers. So today I'm going to get to the explorers. All right. So, and then I'll do a few news releases. Okay. First explorer is Argenta Silver. Argenta Silver is trading at 79 cents. They have a very exceptional high grade silver project in Argentina. It's very hard to find silver only type discoveries in epithermal vein systems or in any system, to tell you the truth. Most silver these days is produced as a byproduct of mining other stuff. Okay. Argenta silver has gone through a cup, a handle, onwards and upwards, and sort of maybe you could even say this was the cup, And this is the handle. They've got assays pending. They're doing, because they're in Argentina, it's actually summertime down there in Argentina, or spring even. And they're going to be drilling through the spring, summer, and early fall, and then into the winter. So they can drill year round on this project. And I recently listened to an interview by their CEO, and I was very impressed with what he talked about when he talked about a new discovery. And nobody's paying attention to it because it was low grade, but it was in the country rock. Okay? They didn't hit the vein, they hit the country rock, and that's carrying silver in it. So now the trick is to find where that silver came from. But whenever you get precious metals that make it from the source into the country rock, this is something to pay a lot of attention to because that's suggestive of a powerful, multi-phased, long-lived mineralizing system that was able to push that silver from the source all the way into the country rock. Pay attention to that, folks. And so I'm really excited about the project. I'm really excited about all the work they're doing. I'm really excited about this cup and handle where the right side of the cup was substantially higher than the left. And now we've got this kind of candle formation where it's starting a nice base. And recently it created a higher low. So technically, fundamentally, it's worth taking a look at. On the fundamentals, they're doing a lot of drilling, lots of assays pending. Pay attention to Argenta Silver. Okay, now Aztec is, oops, why is it giving me emojis? I don't want emojis for my stock charts. All right, Aztec Minerals is a new pick. And as you can see, it's basically for a long time been going sideways. But recently, it kind of had an interesting action here where it broke out above the 50-day moving average. Now, this isn't the first time they've done this, but what is interesting is that those breakouts above the 50-day tend to be related to really good assay results from their project in Arizona, in the world famous Tombstone, Arizona. And uh, yeah, really high grades. They're starting to hit record high grades in their drilling. But it's a sleepy company that doesn't get a lot of love. The CEO of the company, he kind of doesn't want to do a lot of digital marketing, does a few conferences over the years, could do a lot better at their digital marketing. I'll give you that. But what gets me excited is when I see what I see in the drilling. So, if they could get their marketing up to the quality of their drill holes, we might see a significant breakout for this company. Nonetheless, when it comes to explorers, I'm all about the truth machine. I like what I see coming out of the truth machine. I hope that the company gets their game together on the digital marketing side of things because this is a really underappreciated story. And I know that the CEO, he likes to keep the dollars as tight as he can. But when you do that and you run the risk of having your cost of capital, which is your stock price, go up if you don't do a good job of marketing your story. I think they could do a lot better job of marketing their story. But again, it's all about the truth machine to me. And yeah, that's the Aztec Minerals story. I like what I see in their drilling. I think you should take a look at them. Okay, Canadian Gold Corp is an interesting story. I've been picking it since it was under 20 cents a share. It's now at 58 cents a share. And what's really caused this breakout was that they got an offer um, from McEwen Mining to take them over. And it's a stock deal. And they got a great project, by the way. I think that this is going to be an important or high-grade orogenic gold mine of the future. And now it will come under the umbrella of McEwen Inc. I'm going to talk about this news and McEwen Inc.'s recent news at the end of this show, but really what it's trading is in trend with McEwen Inc. McEwen Inc. goes up, they're getting McEwen Inc. stock, so it goes up about the relative same amount, and they're going to be taken over. So it is a pick that's done extremely well for me, but it's going to be off the market in the not too distant future and be part of McEwen Inc. And by the way, I'll talk about the news in a second. All right, so that is the Gold Corp, Canadian Gold Corp story. The next one is Golden Cross, and Golden Cross is in Australia. They've only been trading since earlier this year. Had a good run because they're right beside Southern Cross, who is another of my picks that I think is like, I think of it as the Fosterville 2.0 story. Fosterville is one of the great orogenic gold mines in the world. It's in Australia. It's about 30 kilometers away from both Golden Cross and Southern Cross. And Southern Cross has already made an important discovery. But all the geological characteristics of what led to that discovery are also on the project right beside them, which is Golden Cross's ground. Golden Cross has had a tremendous amount of historical mining, which is a sort of, the old timers did the homework telling them, hey, there's a lot of gold at the surface here. Now drill underneath it and find where it all came from. They're early in that process, and they have also been hamstrung because the assay labs are taking forever in that part of Australia. You've got a lot of really important exploration and big exploration budgets being done. So the lab gets bombarded, and they're the new player in the camp. But yeah, I see this valuation here and the stock trading at 41 cents, and I gotta buy some of that stock. I just made myself a note, buy that stock, Allan. And as you can see, it's down at the 200-day moving average. It's trading below the 50-day moving average. And because it's taken a long time to get the assay results, the stock has drifted down to the 200-day. And as it's done that, it's brought the 50-day moving average down with it. But I think that this is very oversold here. I think that this project is very under loved, if you will, and they got a lot of catalysts. So take a look at Golden Cross, and I think you'll be impressed with what you see there. All right, the next junior or explorer I want to talk about is IDEX Metals. They're exploring newly listed Explorer in Idaho, past production on their project. Um, and I like what I see from the drilling that they're doing. They got breccia pipes on their project, and they're using those breccia pipes to follow the mineralization in those breccia pipes down to the porphyry that they came from. I like this exploration model. I like the project that they have. I like the geophysics that they have. I like that they have not been trading for very long. They're right now trading basically at their base, and they had good results that drove them all the way to $1.50. They're currently trading at 49 cents. I think that this is significantly oversold, trading at the 200-day moving average. They're doing drilling, they got assays pending. This is a good copper exploration story in Idaho that's starting to get a lot of attention due to the discovery that Hercules made. And then the majors got all involved, but I think that this is the real sleeper in the camp. And I like the way they're going about using. Sometimes you can use geophysics, but geophysics can give you a lot of false positives. Where when I see mineralization in a breccia pipe, I look at that and I go, okay, use that breccia pipe, keep following it with your drill holes, and use that to lead you to the porphyry that they came from. That's a lot easier method than, looking at geophysical anomalies and sort of using those to poke holes and try to find the porphyry. That's a very expensive way, especially if the porphyry is fairly deep. Trying to poke your way around in geophysical anomalies to find that is very, very challenging. A much better way is if you've got breccia pipes on the project, use those to guide you down to where they came from, which is going to be a porphyry. All right. And I love the idea of using mineralization to lead you to where it came from. Okay. I'll leave it at that for IDEX. Have a look at IDEX. Inventus is another interesting story that doesn't get enough love, but I think it should. It has performed very well since October. And what's been driving this is that they've been doing bulk sampling on the project. Then, and recently they got the results back from that bulk sampling. They spent about $1 million to do the bulk sampling, and they got over $2 million back from a bulk sample, folks. Usually, bulk sampling, you're spending $1 and you get back much less than $1. The reason is because you're not optimizing your mining. You're basically, you know, in the most inefficient way, you're taking material out of the ground. It's not in a mining scenario, it's in a bulk sampling scenario. Then, in this case, you're shipping that to McEwen Inc.'s mill not far away, and then you're recovering the gold from that. So, this is not an optimized mining scenario yet, because it has about, I think the average grade is about 3 grams per ton. So you're looking at, what is that, like $450 a ton rock. And even though you're not optimized, they're probably spending about 225 of that in your not optimized mining method for bulk sampling. And they spent $1 million, they got over $2 million back. That tells you a lot about the project, even if people aren't paying attention. All right. And it's a conglomerate story. These conglomerates can be huge. One of the greatest mines ever is the Witwatersrand conglomerate mining operation in South Africa. And that's what they're looking at in Ontario, a conglomerate that comes right to surface, and right at surface, they're looking at about $400 or $500 a ton rock that costs them, well, in a mining scenario, it's maybe going to cost them 25% of that. And these conglomerates, you think of a big lake, and the bottom of the lake is the conglomerate. They can be very, very big lakes. Witwatersrand is huge, been in production for over 100 years. They're just sort of tapping into the top of it where it comes to the surface. But these things can go down and and around, and huge areas can be covered with these conglomerate deposits. And I'm getting a little excited while I'm talking about this company. And so it's really an underloved story. I like it a lot. In fact, I'm putting my reminder, I got to buy some of this stock too because this is just too cheap for what they have. So that's the Inventus mining story. Now, the next one is Kootenay Silver. Kootenay Silver has done very well since I picked it. They were trading at about 70 cents, 65 cents when I picked them. They're now at $1.84. They've gone through a golden cross. They have an exceptionally good silver project in Mexico. It's a cluster of epithermal veins. They've been finding high grade. In my opinion, I think that they jumped the gun on doing a resource estimate. I'm not a fan of companies being in a rush to do a resource estimate, but I don't run the company. They run the company. It came out with about a 50,000 ounce resource of high grade silver, which is excellent. The rule of thumb, though, that you want to get to is about 100 million ounces of silver. Why that's a rule of thumb is it basically gives you about 10 years worth of production at 10 million ounces a year. And so that's a good threshold to get to. Now, they came in at about half of that. Why I'm so excited is I think they're going to get way over the rule of thumb. I also believe that they jumped the gun on doing the resource estimate, but that's water under the bridge. They've done it. Now you got to get to the threshold of 100 million ounces, and I think they'll blow through that. What really excites me the most about this is it's high grade. It's in an epithermal vein cluster. They've only been focused on a few of those veins, and they got many more to do the advanced work to build that resource up. And ultimately, I think they're going to prove to have a low capex, high grade, high margin project here that will ultimately turn into a highly profitable mine with a low cost to bring it into production. So those are the reasons I like Kootenay Silver a lot. They've done very well for me as a pick. And I think they're going to continue to do very well as we go forward into the future. Okay, so that is the Kootenay Silver Project. Mithril Silver is a brand new, over the last month or so, is when I picked Mithril. They are also focused on silver and gold in Mexico. Sleepy little company. Nobody's paying attention to it. Why am I paying attention to it? Because it has all the hallmarks of what you look for these silver and gold vein systems in Mexico. They got a big piece of property, lots of historical production. I really like this story a lot, but nobody's paying attention to it. And I think they should be paid attention to because I think they got a great project. Um, Now, it's just going to take more work and maybe a better effort at getting their story out on digital marketing. They don't do any of it, and they should because some of these management teams they think that their project is going to be so overwhelmingly good that everybody will rush towards them. And that doesn't really happen these days because their investors are their attention is pulled in all different directions these days due to digital marketing platforms like I talked about CEO.ca. Of course, everybody knows about X, formerly Twitter. You got YouTube and other social media sites. So those are like a 24-hour a day investor conference, right? But if you're not in using those tools, You can run the risk of getting left behind. And then your cost of capital goes up because nobody's paying attention to your stock. And this is a real disservice when you got a really good story to tell. And so they've got a really good story to tell, but they don't have a lot of people telling it. Now, in the short time I picked it, it's done pretty well as a pick for me. Maybe I'm doing something to help get the story out, but they need more of that. They can't just sort of sit in their offices and, do their geological work and think that, the world's going to rush to their doorstep. You got to get out there on the social media sites and tell your story. That's the bottom line. And they don't do that. And I would like to see them do that because I think that this is a very good project that's just not getting a lot of attention now. But they're doing a lot of work. They're doing a lot of drilling. They'll have a lot of news out. So do your homework on Mithro. Another company that I have as a explorer, but I really should have it in my top of mind picks. So I'm going to move Norsemont Mining to my top of mind because I am paying a lot of attention to this company. They are in Chile. They have a historical producing project that's permitted. They have a resource of over 2 million ounces on their project. They are um, they are doing drilling right now. The resource, amazingly enough, they've got 200 or 2 million and a half, 2.7 million ounces, and that's all in a resource that's in the first 80 meters of the surface. And a significant amount of that is in oxides, and some of it also, or a good portion of it, is in sulfides. And so some people have downplayed the quality of that sulfide resource because they said, well, it's not oxide and it's not going to be easy to get it out in an open pit scenario. But you always want to do your homework, folks. And I've done my homework and I've looked at their technical report. And in their technical report, they talk about how that sulfide gold is actually attached to the sulfides. It's not encased inside of sulfides. Not all sulfide resources are created equal, folks. When the sulfide is, when the gold is completely encapsulated in the sulfide, you got to do a lot of work to and use heat and temperature to get that gold out of there. All right. But when it's attached to crushing and some other very low cost processes, can get that gold out of there. And so this is all very exciting. Now, another thing to pay attention to is that the the emplacement of the gold in the oxides was through vertically veins, right? Vertical veins. And then there was a whole bunch of drilling done with vertical holes. This is not optimized drilling, folks. When you've got vertical emplacement and you drill vertically, you can drill right beside it and you could be right beside a high grade vein and you miss it. All right. But even with that less than optimized drilling, vertical holes into a vertical body, they still came out with a substantial 2.7 million ounce resource. But what's exciting is now they're starting to cut across those with angled holes. I may have had something to do with that new plan of drilling. I'll leave it at that. Talked to their geologist a lot. Originally, they wanted to go in with about 100 short 30-meter holes, also vertical. I said, that's a bad plan. Drill angled holes, and you'll start to tie together those vertical holes. And this will give the modeler of the resource a lot more data, and that will help you to grow your resource inside of the known resource and then keep those holes going, because most of the drilling has been confined to about 80-meter holes, right? So keep those drill holes going down to 300 meters and see what you hit, because in these epithermal veins, you when you're at the top of the vein, you're not at the best part of the vein. So you keep following that. Now, also, they've got these breccia pipes on their property and they're mineralized. Okay. And they can use that, they can drill in from an angled hole into those breccia pipes to lead you down. Now, one of their holes was a almost at the middle of the pipe and going sort of down it and out of it somewhat. Now, I think they did that because they wanted to see um, the vertical dimension of the pipe, and also see if it blows out as they get deeper, which is highly probable. I would have kind of went in with a series of angled holes to follow it, but that's what they've done is they've done a couple holes already into that breccia pipe target. And why I love these breccia pipes is because you can follow that mineralization, which by the way has some very high grade gold in it too, and some copper in there as well. But you can use those breccia pipes, and sometimes those breccia pipes on their own can be very substantial mines in South America. But you can also use that breccia pipe to lead you towards the porphyry that it came off of. So this is a multi-target sort of a company. They've got the resource. They don't have the depth extension of the epithermal veins that led to the resource. They could look at bringing that resource back into production. They could look at going deeper into that in an underground scenario into the network of veins. They got the breccia pipes, and all of this could be coming off of a porphyry. And I think it does, because if you look at where the historical mining was done, and there's actually a doming of the rock that basically is quite a large donut, if you will, and or dome, if you will. Let's say from end to end, probably about 4,000 meters. And so, the question is, well, was that doming created by a porphyry? So at the sort of top of the dome, you've got this past production and the resource. And then coming up through there, you've got breccia pipes. So yes, I think that what caused that dome is a porphyry underneath. And it likely is not that deep. Sometimes one of the problems when you're looking for a porphyry is they can be deep, 1,000, 2,000 meters. So sometimes if you find a porphyry in one of those kind of scenarios, it doesn't make your life easier. It actually starts to make your life harder, because now you got to raise up a whole bunch of money. You got to drill these super deep holes to target the porphyry that's deep. And, that can get very expensive very quickly. But when you've got this evidence of a dome, you've got all these pipes coming up through it, there's a very good chance that the porphyry is not very deep. Let's say 300 to 600 meters deep. Now, if you catch a porphyry at those depths, now you can pound away at it a lot cheaper. You don't need to do those 1,500-meter holes to figure the thing out. Because just because it's a porphyry doesn't, you hit a porphyry, it doesn't mean you got it figured out. Now you got to keep drilling. Like, let's say that dome is what caused, or porphyry is what caused that dome. Well, you got 4,000 meters by about 2,000 meters is what the dome is, or 3,000 meters maybe, of what that dome is created in. So think about that. If the porphyry caused that, well, now you got to figure out, you got to drill a bunch of holes in that area to figure out that porphyry. Nonetheless, they got a lot of they got a lot of options on how to skin this cat. Let's just say it that way. They have the potential for near-term production in the oxides and the sulfides in the first 80 meters of surface. They got the vein potential below that. They got the porphyry potential. There's multiple porphyries or breccia pipes on this throughout this domed area I keep talking about. Those can also be potential mines as well. And then what caused it all? Likely a big porphyry system below it. And so, yeah, really good story. They raised about, I think, 5 or 6 million. They got Rob McEwen to put some money in, and other really important people as well. It's been going kind of sideways since, let's say, September, as they were awaiting to get the new drilling underway. But that's underway now, and they're going to have two or three drill rigs drilling there. So, and you know what? Earlier, I talked about some companies that were dropping the ball on their digital marketing. Back here, this company was doing the same thing. Then they saw the light. They started to get the word out. I helped in that process. And wow, magically, they started to trade a lot better. The stock went up to a level that their cost of capital, which is their stock, got more attractive. So this is why you want to get on the ball on digital marketing, folks. But I got excited about the project due to the quality of the project. So now you've got a high quality project that's funded at a good price, and they're getting their digital marketing game together as well. So it's all coming together for Norsemont. Alrighty. So next up, and I'm getting on to an hour and a half for this show, so I gotta get my skates on. PSIL, Pacifica Silver, um, dot, where are you? There it is. Pacifica Silver. This is a company I picked over the last few months. It's done extremely well. I think it's up about 150% since I picked it. That's a very nice move in a short period of time. It closed Friday at $2.06 a share. They've got a high quality silver gold in Mexico as well. They got great investors. Their recent financing that loaded them up with cash had Vizsla Silver invested in them. First Majestic, Eric Sprott, the whole band is coming together, if you will, on Pacifica, and they do their homework, folks. This is not something to ignore when you get other companies that are in mining and developing of silver invests in an explorer. Okay, I think that tells a pretty good story right there. That tells you that guys that know what they're looking for, which for high grade silver gold systems in Mexico, two of those successes are First Majestic and Vizsla, and both of them are invested in the company. There you go, along with Eric Sprout. That's the Pacifica Silver story. Um, Power Metallic Mines has a really high quality project. Okay. High grade, lots of potential to find more high grade. It's down. I think I originally picked it at about $1.25. It's down about 25% since I picked it. What I think is causing this stock to get beaten down like this, they're even down when they put excellent high grade copper, extremely high grade copper, news releases out and it stays down here at the more than 52-week low. Okay. Well, right about their, let's say at their 52-week low. So why is that? Well, they're planning on doing a listing on the New York Stock Exchange. But to do that, you can't be trading at 99 cents a share. So what's happened is that as they've been getting the word out that they want to get uplisted onto the New York Stock Exchange, people have run the numbers and said, oh, you're going to have to do a rollback of your stock in order to get that listing. Now, I don't think that I'm a believer that these rollbacks or stock splits, they're mostly cosmetic. What matters to me is what's the valuation of the company and do I think it's going up from there? Nonetheless, people get really wrapped up on these stock splits or stock rollbacks. They're going to need to do a stock rollback, I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but the market certainly thinks so as well. They're going to have to do some kind of a consolidation of their stock in order to get the price up to the minimum listing requirements. Okay. And so since they started talking about that, the stock was trading at about a buck and a half. I think people started to run the numbers and look at the listing requirements, and it's been down ever since, even when they have great results out. Okay. So again, I think that these kind of structuring of the stock is really just cosmetic. I only care about the valuation. And because of this potential cosmetic event, the valuation is very cheap. And that's the more important point. Okay. So take a look at Power Nickel or Power Metallic Mines. They used to be Power Nickel, and I always get my names mixed up with them, but they changed their name to Power Metallic Mines. Their project is amazing. They got a fantastic project. They're doing a bunch of drilling. It's getting better and better. And this cosmetic event of the structure of the shares, I think, has created an opportunity. So take a look at them. QIM is my next junior. Kimbaya. I originally started picking Kimbaya at about 40-ish, 45 cents. They went all the way up to a buck, have come back down ever since, back to around closing Friday at 57 cents. Why do I like this company is because they are in Colombia, right beside the Segovia mine that's being mined by one of my mid-tier picks. It's a very low-cost producer, money-making machine of a mine. It's a series of veins that they're mining. Really fantastic project. And then sitting right beside them is Kimbaya. And the veins that are being mined by Segovia Aris Mining go right through their project. So they've been drilling that for a couple, 2, 3 months now, and they haven't shown, they haven't given any assay results from it. Now, that could be completely because the assay results are slow. Sometimes companies want to get all their drill core in and wait for all their results to come back. When that happens, people start thinking, oh, is it really going to be that good? If they had good results in the first hole or two, why don't they put those out? It's a valid question, but they are hitting veins, the extension of those Segovia veins, they're starting to hit them. Now who knows, they might just be at the very top of those veins and they got to get down into them. So I'm not putting a lot of excitement or lack thereof on these early drill results. I basically have seen enough because they recently have reported that they're hitting veins on their property. So now they got to figure those veins out, whether they're on the top of the vein, have they hit the boiling zone of the vein? Do they need to get deeper? Are they in like here in Mexico, I've walked over epithermal veins that are like, you know, a few inches. And then I've been in mines where a few inches up at the top, you go down 50 meters or so, and all of a sudden it blows out to like 10 meters, 5 meters. That's the nature of the pinching and swelling of veins. So I want to see what the grades are. I also want to see the intersections. I want to see what the core looks like throughout the holes. And but nonetheless, they're in a camp where you've got these epithermal veins being mined at extremely low cost, high grade, and very profitable, right? Now they've shown that those veins also extend over onto their property. Now they've got to sort of figure out where they are in the vein system, whether at the top of it or have they got into the boiling zone yet. I'm not sure if they have. I would like to see more of the drill core myself. In pictures is fine. I've looked at enough pictures of epithermal veins to know if they're good. The thickness of them will help. But yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing out of Kimbaya's early drilling. But they're run by a guy who's not really a rock guy. And he's got a key advisor that's not really a rock guy. Now, fortunately, they got an exceptionally good geologist who is a serious rock guy, doing the work and picking the targets and running the team. So sometimes these not rock guys can get a little too wrapped up in, well, what's the assays? And they get a little nervous about those assays. And you're just proving a theory now. As long as you prove that theory and you keep expanding on that theory, I think they've got a great story developing here. But another thing that they've got is a porphyry on their Tahami Central project that looks quite interesting as well. Now, the problem with porphyries is that once you hit them, sometimes that's just the start of your problems because they can be really big and they can be really low grade and they can be low grade but really big. And that's what makes for a porphyry mine. But they can also be deep and you got to start poking holes all around them. It can get really expensive really quickly. So, I like the sounds of the porphyry potential, but to tell you the truth, if you prove up the thesis that those veins that are making that fantastic um, mine at Segovia are coming through your property, and you could have the extension of that cluster, that is a potential company maker. And I think that that's what they got the potential of having at their Tahami South project. So that's the Kimbaya story. Take a look at that. Wolf Den. Wolf Den is another explorer that I'm following that doesn't do a very good job with their digital marketing. They virtually do zero digital marketing. That's why you get a patchy trader. But I like their project in Nevada a lot that they're drilling right now. Um, I think they could have something serious there. But it's not getting any interest right now. It trades on appointment. Nobody's paying attention. I am because I've done my homework on the project and I think it's really good. And who knows, maybe if they get some good results, they'll get a little more aggressive on their digital marketing. But that's the Wolf Den story. WLF is their stock symbol on the venture. Charlie Gold um, is it's spelled Xali. The Mexican way of saying it, which is where I am, is Chali. Uh, I don't know how others say it. Some might call it Exali. I don't know. But Chali is the name of the company. And why doesn't it show up? And, oh, yeah, it's the stock symbol. What is the stock symbol for Chali? Hold on a second here. Let me do a search for Chali. Sometimes stock charts doesn't give me all the charts. XGC, that's what it is. XGC. XGC. Uh, dot V, I think. Oh, you're just not cooperating with me. That's okay. We'll look at the stock chart over here. Chali Gold. So as you can see, it was trading at 3 cents a few weeks ago, a couple months ago, and really have starting to come off that level. And I made them a pick when they were just 3 or 4 cents a share. They closed Friday at 10 cents a share. What's got the stock moving up is that they got this project that they got um, from Pan American Silver in Peru. Now, why that's important is that it was a the project was a Pan American Silver quality project, but it didn't get any love under the Pan American Silver umbrella. Now, why? It's a really good project. Okay, that's the starter. Second, it's run by Joanne Fries. Now, Joanne Fries was the qualified person geologist for one of the huge winners in the 1990s, which was called Arequipa. And guess where Arequipa's project was? In Peru. So Joanne Fries knows Peru very, very well. And she was having problems with her project in Mexico because some of her ground she lost the permit on them and the government took them back. Now, they could still get those back. Who knows? There's ways to do that. I think it is recoverable. But Joey decided, okay, I know Peru very well. I know where there's good projects in Peru. I like this project that I can get from Pan American Silver. So they made that switch. And since then, the stock has started to trade and it's starting to trade up. It still only has a $14 million valuation, which is like crazy cheap. They are doing a non-brokered private placement to raise about $1.5 million. So they're getting the cash together and this project could be brought back into production. They're going to do a lot more to get the word out about the project. I like it. I got to get Joanne Fries on for an interview soon. I'm going to make a note of that to myself. Interview Joanne, because I like this project a lot. All right. So there you go. That's the Charlie story. All right. Got a couple of quick news releases to talk about. One of them is from McEwen Mining or McEwen Inc. I talked about them earlier because they are my pick as a copper unicorn, but they also got gold mining. And their gold mining has a recent discovery at the Foran mine, expands along strike and down dip. Drilling at depth shows potential to extend mine life. They hit 7.7 grams per ton of gold over 20 meters and 23.5 grams per ton of gold over 3.7 meters. So bear in mind, folks, that a gram of gold these days is worth $150. So when you got 7 grams, that's like $1,000 a ton rock. Over 20 meters is phenomenal. That's just going to be really beautifully profitable material. Then over here, you got 23 grams. So that's like $3,000 a ton rock, and it's over 3.7 meters. Now, anything over a meter and a half, you got no problem mining that. Couple meters, even better. Double that, even better. No problem underground mining that when you're looking at 1,000 to $3,000 a ton rock. Okay. So they talk about significant extension of the high grade mineralization. 100 meters vertically represents a 45% increase since our last update when they've extended the high grade gold mineralization by 100 meters vertically. Potential to extend Froom's mine life and improve economics. Okay, good. All good. Greater mining flexibility, enabling higher production and lower costs. Mill feed from multiple sources from H2 2026, including the Stock mine, which is currently under development. So now they've got Stock is going to be in production in the first half of 2026. Continued exploration. So these kind of assets can really turn around a company that is what's considered a high cost miner. Their average cost could be like $2,500 per ounce of gold produced. Now, you're selling it at over 4,000, that still makes you a really good money. But when the average cost of miners of gold is about $1,500, you get discounted. People say, well, they're a high cost producer. Well, yeah, they're still making money off of that production. But here's where things get interesting because see at the Froome mine, here is the current underground workings, right? And here is where they're talking about extending into this mineralized lens called Froome West. And now they're starting to expand the drilling down at depth. And they're looking at a proposal to bring this into production by creating new underground mining there, and that this is still current drilling target area is still open at depth. But look at some of these numbers. Okay, so let's look at where they can get to the easiest. What are you looking at? 22 grams, 2.1 meters, 27 grams over half a meter, 12 grams over 16 meters, 7.9 grams over 6.4 meters. Now you're looking at over 500 dollar a ton rock at mineable widths, and it can go up into the $3,000 a ton. I mean, this is going to be a great mine. This zone here is going to be a great one to bring into production when you're selling gold at over $4,000 a ton. Same thing can be said about Stock. And so they're not getting any love for their gold mining operations, but I think they've got the assets to make for a great gold mining story in the next in 2026 and beyond. Now, let's look at the news from Canadian Gold Corp because Canadian Gold Corp is being taken over by McEwen Inc. Now, and they got their shareholder approval to do that. It sounds like it'll all be done by January. So then Canadian Gold Corp's project will be inside of McEwen Inc. Now, let's look at the Tartan mine here because let's have a quick look. The let's see, where is their Tartan project tech? Oh no. This will take too long to look through the technical reports. Take me forever to get to the guts of the thing. Let me try something else here. Let's go here and let's get back and we'll go into their presentation. There we go. Okay, just bear with me a second here, folks, because I got to show you some stuff that, really excites me about this Tartan mine. And I think it's going to be Rob McEwen and his team. They know how to mine orogenic gold systems. Rob got famous because of what they did at Gold Corp, and it was an orogenic gold system. I think there's a lot of characteristics that are really interesting. Look at some of this visible gold and sulfides. Here's the what you're looking for. You're looking for these veins. But even this sort of stuff here and what's above this, this is telling you that you're into a vein system. You got to do more drilling. Past production. Now you'll see a significant amount of past production at Tartan, but here you can see it on a cross section. It only goes down to about 300 meters. This was in production when gold was much lower than it is now. The company got into problems. Went bankrupt, and Canadian Gold Corp was able to get the project. They've done drilling. Now, in these orogenic gold systems, here is how their drilling basically was in 2017. And here's how it looks in 2025 after Canadian Gold Corp has gone in there. What stands out to me about this system is that orogenic gold systems, they tend to be kind of zony, right? You'll get a zone here, maybe you'll get a zone over there, but they don't really have this kind of continuity is quite exceptional. The only other one that I know that's like this is the Amex Perron Champagne zone, and that's got over nearly a million ounces, 850,000 of that has an average grade of 16.2, and it starts right at surface and goes down to over 1,000 meters. And I see a lot of lookalikes to this particular zone here at the Tartan mine, and it doesn't have as much drilling. But when they finish drilling out this part, you're going to see that that continuity goes from surface all the way down to over 1,000 meters. Now they're not looking at bringing this stuff in back into production, although you never know. There could be some of that material left. Maybe over here you get a bit of it. Maybe in some of these zones you can expand it. Maybe they do more drilling. But the real guts of this system is 300 meters and below and keep going down to 1,000 meters. And even down there, you're still getting 13 grams per ton of gold over 3 meters. No problem mining that. Even 4 grams over 4 meters. That's $400 a ton rock, or no, sorry, $600 a ton rock using current gold prices over 4 meters. But they got 12 grams, 6.8 grams, 12.6, 6, 6, 9.7, 20 grams, 23.8. It just goes on and on here, folks, of, $500 a ton rock and up, going from 300 meters all the way to over 1,000 meters. And it's not drilled off enough. It needs a lot more drilling. I think this is a great project. I'd love to have this project, but McEwen Inc. is going to have this project, and they know what to do with it because they've mined these kind of systems before. Rob McEwen has, and I think he's got another good one here. But then this south zone, okay, very little drilling, had a little bit of mine production coming out of it, but now they're finding that it's still open. They're hitting high grade way over here to extend that thing. And look at some of these hits: 7 grams over 4 meters, 8.4 grams over 2 meters. I mean, that's like 9 grams times 150. That's like 1,400 a ton rock over 2 meters. No problem mining that, folks. But they're getting some good, and they're just a couple holes into this south zone. it's a really great project here that McEwen's getting, and the shareholders of Canadian Gold Corp will become shareholders of McEwen. So yeah, there you go. Good story. That's kind of a merger of the McEwen Inc.'s gold mining operations and Canadian Gold Corp's coming into the fold. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm 2 hours into this show today, but I got one more company I'm going to talk about, which is Dolly Varden Silver, because I cannot talk about them. I recently made them a pick, and on December 4th, so just a few days ago, they hit 14.5 grams per ton of gold over 21.81 meters. That is a huge hole, folks, including 113 grams of gold and 997 grams per ton of silver over 0.68 meters. Even though this is less than a meter, folks, you could waste, you could mine at that grade, no problem mining that. Even if you got to go out a meter into waste, you're still going to make money on that. But at 14.5 grams per ton of gold over 21 meters, that's a huge hit for an underground mine. That would be very juicy to mine. Here they're showing you some of the core where they hit that 70 grams of gold, 21 meters of 14 grams, some nice looking material in there. Here you, and you know what? This still looks like quartz breccia to me. You know, when I look at quartz breccia, folks, the gold is in the quartz. It's not in the country rock that those mix up with. So to get those kind of grades in the breccia, that's pretty insane. That is juicy, juicy stuff. And look at it. It's nice, thick intersection, a high grade throughout that intersection. It's not just one and then a little over here and a little over here. That's high grade throughout that whole intersection. That would be a dream to mine that in an underground scenario. Okay, so I like what I see in the rocks. I'm happy I recently picked them. Let's have a look at their stock chart before I say sayonara to this show or adios as I'm in Mexico. Dolly Varden dot DV dot. Why are you giving me a hassle? Folks, Dolly Varden. Okay, there it is. I had an interview with them. It was under $6. Closed Friday at $6.50. I like this project a lot. I think this is one you want to take a good look at. They did a rollback because they wanted to get listed on the New York Stock Exchange, where they have a listing now. And so, yeah, I mean, it's all cosmetic. Stock splits and rollbacks are all cosmetic. And all that matters is what is the valuation of the company? Is that reasonably priced and does it have a potential to go up? And I would say that Dolly Varden is reasonably priced. This is their New York Stock Exchange Amex listing. And yeah, it's come up of late. I think it's undervalued, doing a lot of drilling, got a lot of assay results to come out. Really high quality project. Do your homework on Dolly Varden Silver. And folks, this show is now a 2 hour marathon, and you're just going to have to work your way through it. I'll give you a list of which companies I talked about in which order in the description below. As always, I am an idea generator. I'm not making buying or selling recommendations. I try to be a filter for you. I've been in this business for 32 years, 20 years as a commentator on the business. I have a good filter, but I'm only a filter trying to find you good companies for you to do your homework on. But before you make any investment decision, you got to talk to your financial advisors, and you also have to do your homework. I'm only the start of your homework. I try to find good companies for you to do homework on. And when I find my picks, I keep updating you as it goes along so I can help you with that homework. But you got to do that homework as well. And on that note, you have a great day and we'll talk to you soon.